Hey there YouTube, it's your boy Lipid out here with another reaction video. Today we got Ocarina of Time, a masterclass in Subtext by Good Blood. This is a video I've kept in like my spreadsheet of videos I should probably react to for a long time. So I'm actually kind of excited to get to it. This is going to be a long video, so hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get right into it, shall we? Hit it! I heard a lot of good things about this video, so let's get right into it. Let's go. Ooh! Look at this animation. The Hyrule Journeys. Okay. Let's go. This seems exciting.
All the time.
I love Breath of the Wild. Amazing game. You just look at. I'll let the video talk.
Sorrow is no stranger to Zelda stories. Casting shadows over all the exploration, puzzle solving, monster battles, and rescue missions loom big clouds of sadness that, over the course of the series, has been the Zelda ingredient the writers have been slowly directing our attention to the most. Sorrow is being written like a disease, a virus infecting the happiness of each story world, and Link, the hero of these stories, assumes the role of the healer, burdened with flushing out the virus and restoring healthy emotional balances to each one. More often than not, it's the supporting characters that carry this sorrow disease, and their dialogue is constantly connecting these two themes of healing and sadness together, asking Link to heal their sorrows and ease their regrets.
I have to start with a disclaimer that I've only played Breath of the Wild, and I've played majority of Tears of the Kingdom. But I agree that even in the newer games, it's still true. Yes, it's fun, it's exciting, it's almost like Minecraft in a very Nintendo-esque way, but with Tears of the Kingdom at least. But this seems more on, like, it's more along the lines of, yes, you have the experience of being the hero, but you're also burdened with something that the game isn't like explicitly telling you. So yeah, I agree with that. And with Ocarina of Time, from what I've heard, it's a sad game. Like it's a breathtaking game, but also takes a lot out of you emotionally. So yeah,
titles
sure.
like Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess
I've
go
heard
so
only good
far
things
as
about
to
them.
position these themes of sadness and regret into the opening dialogue, while Wind Waker and Breath of the Wild throw Link into broken worlds already operating in the aftermath of destruction, easing the regrets of the characters as they awaken to fulfill their destiny. Oracle of Ages and Seasons use flames of sorrow and despair as the villain's dominant threat upon the world, but what's important is that all of the sorrowful dialogue is unavoidable, necessary rites of passage for story progression, and all Zelda stories carry that Zelda sorrow language like this.
There's always a subtext of sorrow, right?
Except
oh my god, yeah. The title of the video is a masterclass in subtext. Okay, fine, sure. Oh, except, okay.
Ocarina of Time is often overlooked when it comes to discussing which Zelda story is the saddest, and this might be because Ocarina director Shigeru Miyamoto and script director Toru Osawa don't use that Zelda sorrow language like its successors. Those recurring themes of sorrow, regret, sadness, and even healing appear nowhere in any corner of the script. Instead, Osawa sprinkles throughout the character dialogue this kind of off-center, cryptic, poetic language. Themes like the clear water's surface reflecting growth, melodies drawing you into infinite darkness, memories of younger days, the flow of time being always cruel, being consumed by greed, and childish minds turning to noble ambition. In the past, these themes have been discussed as
Holy shit! Like, that just gave me chills, because it's like... Because it's a very beautiful way of... it's one of those things that I've enjoyed about video games, where it's like, unlike film or unlike, like TV shows or unlike songs, you don't have the the author or like the artist, propagate. Like it's difficult to explain. It's like in those different mediums, right? You expect whoever's generating the art to propagate their interpretation of it. Okay, maybe it's not as accurate or as clear as that, but I think for art forms like literature, art forms like video games, it's your experience, like you're reading or you're experiencing the game. So it's almost as though everyone's experience of the game is going to be unique. Even like story-driven games, it's all about perspective on how you play the game. So this seems even more interesting because the more subtext you add to a game, the more detailed it becomes. A similar story on Elden Ring, which is like, you can play the entire game and just enjoy the action and combat. You can take the side road and try piecing together like the entire story. Like there've been entire YouTube channels. Like I've reacted to Vadi Video's videos. So it's like, yes, like shout out to my G, because those pieces that don't make sense to the casual player, to those who are hardcore players who want to get as much as they want out of the game, they will try piecing as much as they can to like get even the tiniest details right. A similar thing I've seen for like what was the other game? Was it Shadow of the Colossus, I think, right? Yeah. So games like that, huge experience. So I'm curious to see why he says Ocarina of Time is the exception. I'm curious.
Standalone sentences.
Because these are all themes that the older you get, the more obvious they become. It's interesting because he says these like memory of younger days, the flow of time is always cruel, those are consumed by greed, a childish mind will turn to noble ambition. These are all changes that when you play the game as a child will definitely make the game feel different when you play it as an adult. It's almost as though there are two ways of reading the same game. And that's what's actually,
called upon
interesting.
In singular form to assist theories or arguments generated among the Zelda community. But tracking this language back through Ocarina's entire script begins to reveal a few continuous thematic threads that, when isolated, actually form the skeletons of not only one, but two narratively complete stories of sorrow. With the bones of these two threads now in mind, small details that add to the muscle of these two stories begin to pop out. Miyamoto and Osawa have used everything in the Ocarina toolbox: dialogue, locations, characters, nature, events, architecture, mechanics, and sound design to hide away subtle clues that all point back to these two sorrow threads.
I'm sorry for pausing, but that's a very beautiful, way of saying that with video games, especially with most like a digital form of content. And if you as a game creator have had that experience, I don't, but I'd imagine people who have that kind of experience, I would imagine that level of control and precision you have in creating and crafting those games. Like there used to be games in the past that you have that level of crafting and like perfectness that you don't get with games today. I can see what he's trying to say, that you have so many ways and plot points and storytelling devices that you could use, people today aren't using. So I agree with that.
Instead of casting obvious clouds of sadness above the adventure through such direct, sorrowful dialogue, the creative team have buried sadness down in the subtext of the story. And as we begin to uncover all of the hidden details, it becomes clear that Ocarina of Time is, without a doubt, the saddest Zelda story no one noticed.
Wow.
In order to make sense of Miyamoto and Osawa's two sorrow threads, we first need to take a look at the beats that construct Ocarina of Time's main adventure. And the story opens on the Great Deku Tree sending Navi the Fairy to summon Link for a meeting. Sword and shield in hand, Link is warned by the Deku Tree of an evil spreading across the land of Hyrule and is sent to gather the three spiritual stones before Ganondorf does. One inside the tree, one in a cave, and one in the belly of a giant fish. Using the three stones and the Ocarina of Time given to him by Princess
The stone in the belly of the fish is pretty biblical, but okay, just curious.
Zelda, Link accidentally leads Ganondorf into the sacred realm and subsequently to the Triforce, granting him one evil wish: govern Hyrule.
So he wins.
Link sleeps for 7 years and wakes as an adult to discover the once healthy Hyrule is now Dark Hyrule, and is sent on a new quest to destroy the curses now skulking inside Hyrule's 5 temples.
Whoa.
Through tackling this evil, all 5 sages are awakened. Link's once childhood
All the
friends
races,
now
right?
transcended to the position of guardian over each realm of Hyrule: forest, mountain, lake, underworld, and desert. With their help, Link takes down Ganondorf and saves Zelda, and after succeeding, is sent back in time before Ganondorf hatches his plan.
Okay.
This top adventure line is the face of Ocarina and is essentially the blurb on the back of the box,
Okay.
complete with deadly dungeons, weapons of great power, and time travel.
Sure. Which I think would be the most casual
these two
experience,
sorrow
right?
threads come into play?
Okay.
Well, they actually begin where the entire Ocarina narrative begins, in that harrowing scene I showed in the prologue, the death of the Great Deku Tree.
It dies?
This scene with the Deku Tree's death is by far the most dense in its layered symbolism,
But
and that its meaning translates differently depending on which one of Osawa's 3 threads is being followed. On the adventure
really
line,
uncomfortable.
his death is used as the vehicle to establish Link's motivation.
Okay.
A curse spreads across Hyrule, and Link witnesses the effects firsthand in the Deku Tree's death. Off Link goes. But the first sorrow thread, though, specifically requires attention paid not to why the Deku Tree died, but how. Emphasis is placed heavily on the importance of life and natural balance across Ocarina of Time. Before his death, the Deku Tree recounts to Link Hyrule's creation story in detail. 3 goddesses, each with their own divine spirit of power, wisdom, and courage,
The Triforce.
cultivate the land, the law, and life to uphold that law in Hyrule.
Okay.
With this creation story embedded in the DNA of Ocarina's larger narrative, the land of Hyrule is inaugurated, not just as a blank world serving Link's exploration, but as a living, breathing organism, almost sentient with different moods, weather conditions, and sleeping patterns.
Are you telling me the world is alive, not figuratively, but literally, as a kind of like a body of conscience to the divine being that is the Triforce? Holy shit!
Following the creation story, the Deku Tree goes on to speak of a wicked man of the desert who was the one to cast the death curse on the tree, and it's here, in the tension of Hyrule's natural balance and the death curse, that Osawa's first thread begins to take shape. While the characters in other Zelda stories are the direct victims of the series' sorrow disease, in Ocarina it is Hyrule's nature that has been afflicted by Ganondorf's curse.
Oh!
Link is restoring a natural order tipped off balance, and this quest for purification echoes the ethics found in the Japanese homegrown religion of Shintoism.
Okay, at this point, the video is just basically transcended the game and is just like, by the way, here's the philosophy. I'm like, bro, that is interesting.
I live right by the Fushimi Inari Shrine. I've had a relation with this shrine since I was a child. Because of that, I felt that I was always protected, as if it's my guardian angel.
That's Miyamoto at the Fushimi Inari Shrine in southern Kyoto in Japan. Miyamoto and Osawa's childhood hometown. While the direct influence of this Shinto shrine can be found in Miyamoto's Star Fox series, the broader spirit of the Shinto faith is embedded on a larger scale across his entire gamography. None more so than the Zelda series, which are always stories reverberating off the needs and rhythm of nature.
Like restoring balance.
Yet, no Zelda story is quite as distilled in its use of Shintoist ethics than Ocarina of Time, and this is the first sorrow thread. The Shinto line.
The philosophical line? Okay, so it's like saying that Ganon's curse was, it's not the fact that the Deku Tree and everything else you're seeing in the world go wrong, it's the way that his curse is affecting the balance of the world itself. Okay, sure. Okay.
A great love and respect for nature is the defining foundation of the Shinto religion.
I didn't know that.
The minutia of a moral compass is replaced with harvesting a desire to remain in touch with kami, the spiritual energy of a particular place or a member of nature.
That's actually interesting because just isn't typically And kami in Japanese means God, right?
Name kami can be translated to gods or nature spirits.
Interesting.
While the name Shinto literally translates to the way of the gods.
Oh, okay.
The fox Miyamoto addresses at the Fushimi Inari Shrine is considered a messenger of the Inari god. Inari being the name of the mountain the shrine sits at the base of, believed to host the god of rice, fertility, and industry. Purification is a key aspect of all ritual activity in Shinto, and it exists to reestablish order and balance between nature, humans, and deities.
It's about balance.
Purification rituals counteract the threat of pollution, which is considered an obstruction to the flow of life and blessing from the kami. The anthropomorphization or physical representation of kami spirits in fiction isn't uncommon, and the best visual example might be from Studio Ghibli's Princess
I have not watched this and I
Mononoke,
want
a film that borrows heavily from Shintoist artifacts. The biggest examples being the lives of the boars, wolves, the kodama, who represent the spirits of individual trees, and the forest spirit, a symbol of harmony, who embodies the larger kami of the entire forest. In Mononoke, San and Ashitaka are seen as the saviors in a world that has forgot about kami, rhythm, nature, and consequently, ultimate importance. Miyamoto and Osawa's work in Ocarina of Time also borrow from the same Shintoist framework. Different villages with their own unique races occupy different areas of
These also
Hyrule,
very
and each
different
race is
from
bound
the newer
elementally
games. So
to
it's
their
interesting
own
to see it
section of nature.
in the original form, right?
Gorons to mountain and fire, Zoras to water, and Kokiri to forest.
Those look very different, though.
These rural, kami-like races dedicate their worship towards the greater nature spirits, the Great Deku Tree, in which, similarly to the forest spirit in Mononoke, embodies the kami of Kokiri Forest, and Lord Jabu Jabu, the patron deity of the Zora race, thought to embody the divine spirit and protector of the Zora ancestral lands, always sitting in some sort of altar. Jabu only grants entry when presented with a fish offering, and this concept of offering food like rice and fish is taken directly from Shintoist practices. The beta version of this scene shows a pedestal with an ocarina engraved on top, suggesting that music was originally required to open Jabu Jabu's mouth, and this references a Shintoist ritual practice called kaguda, aka God Entertainment, which is used during festivals to appease kami spirits. In fact, music in ocarina is the direct replacement for these Shintoist rituals. Saria explains that music can be used to speak to the spirits of the forest, and moments exist when music and dance are used to bring happiness to those elementally bound occupants across Hyrule.
And this is one of those things that I enjoy seeing, because it talks about like using those different tools at your disposal in telling a story, and imprinting your experience, your values, and conveying them to the player, but without obstructing from the actual core gameplay and actual experience of the story of the game. I can see how, like, looking at this, like, detailing how it's done and breaking it down, it becomes obvious. But I'd imagine playing it for the first time, it wouldn't even hit you. That is, that is solid, gameplay foundation. So kudos to me.
In Ocarina, music calls down rain. It splits waterfalls.
I think that's actually, now looking at it, would be a fair assumption, right? It's like, well, songs don't usually work in real life, but not if the world is alive and listening to you, as it's, as you're essentially worshipping it. Fair enough.
Sun and moon, and calls a horse to Link's side. Music here plays the role of connecting Link directly with the rhythm of Hyrule's nature.
Melody was wrong, but wait.
Urasawa and Miyamoto also achieve this connection through their subtle design elements. The 3 dungeons Link must explore first during his childhood phase are all environments crafted directly from the greater nature deities. Inside the Deku Tree, inside Jabu Jabu's belly, and inside Dodongo's cavern. Which upon closer inspection is actually built from the remains of an old dinosaur with skulls and rib cages and things like that.
So
Link then purifies each dungeon, ridding them of the infestations placed there by Ganondorf, and is rewarded with one of the 3 spiritual stones, symbols of that section of nature he's purified. Forest. Mountain.
Water.
Water. These elemental stones are then used to open the door of time, and the sacred act of opening the sanctuary door during Shinto ceremonies is also recreated here. Music once again used to replace the concept of ritual to open the door to the sacred realm.
So it's like a
and
personification of the
gods.
ritual. Okay, interesting.
Link's childhood phase is dedicated predominantly to connecting him with the idea of what a healthy Hyrule looks like. And Osawa and Miyamoto place such a strong emphasis on this to allow for the tragedy of what happens next hit harder.
Oh, okay. I now understand like where he's going with this. Okay, it's like you know those concepts in like some TV shows and movies or even books. In media res is what they call it in Latin. I would have butchered that, but it basically means sometimes in TV shows you would have something like a middle of the narration. It's like you just put someone in between the story and you just kind of have to figure out what's going on. Similar to how Elden Ring starts. Because you're just put into this game, you have no clue what's going on, and you just know you have to fight these bosses. But the more you play the game, you kind of have an inkling on what the actual story is. What he's saying here is that for Ocarina of Time, you already had the background. You already had how it was supposed to be. And then the game just takes it away. And now you know what the difference is. That is genius. It's simple, but effective. But genius as well if you do it effectively.
Shintoism largely died in the post-World War II era.
Yeah, when I can see that.
In the aftermath of the war, most Japanese came to believe that their hubris of empire had led to their downfall. Lust for territory blinded their leaders to the importance of their homeland. We see this theme of territorial conquest playing out through both villains in Ocarina and Mononoke, Ganondorf and Lady Eboshi, whose objectives on the domination of the world rather than seeking to establish harmony. Eboshi plans to kill the Forest Spirit in order to stop the spread of nature, making it easier for her own town to conquer and prosper in the iron-rich grounds of the area. Ganondorf, in his quest of greed to gain complete mastery of the world, places curses upon all of Hyrule's nature deities, and with Kami now disregarded, nature retaliates. Kami spirits are of two minds. They can nurture and love when respected, or they can bring destruction and disharmony when disregarded.
Okay, then.
And so while manifesting into only smaller monsters during Link's childhood phase with parasitic spiders in the Deku Tree, dinosaur infestations in the cave, and electric leech-like anemones in Jabu Jabu's belly, when Link wakes after that 7 years, the effects of the curse now affect Dark Hyrule at large. Lake Hylia has been drained. Death Mountain suffers from endless eruption. Monsters cover the floor of Kokiri Forest. Dark spirits are set loose in Kakariko Village, and Ganondorf's minions gather in the desert.
Jeez.
Shintoism also believes that upon death, souls with unsettled disputes in life become ghosts. And so the appearance of big po-ghosts across Hyrule, spirits of concentrated hatred, are now an...
Their pose? Oh my god, bro, like legit, if you play, I just realized he was talking about pose. Wait, in Tears of the Kingdom, pose are like these small like, white thingies you just keep picking up in the bottom caverns. So I'm curious to see how that's the background for it.
Instead of dungeons crafted by Hyrule's nature, the dungeons Link must purify as an adult now have man-made qualities to their architecture, echoing the sentiment that the world Link now occupies is built on the strength of man instead of natural balance. And so the Shinto line is really a story about the battle over the nature of Hyrule, and Link is the cure, purifying the world with his music and weapons of great power. After destroying the manifestations of the curse in each temple, Hyrule physically begins a process of healing, and the new awakened sages reward Link with elemental medallions: light, forest, fire, water, shadow, and spirit. With the forest now purified, a Deku Sprout shoots up to one day grow and become the new Deku Tree. The volcano is calmed, the ice melts in Zora's domain, the lake refills with clear water, and the infinite darkness is destroyed in the underworld.
This is good.
An element of the Shinto creation myth is the existence of a land of the dead called Yomi, an evil realm where the dead reside. The spirits living in Yomi are malicious and lonely and try to drag people down from the land of the living.
Interesting.
At the very end, Ganondorf's castle, the beacon of Hyrule's pollution, crumbles, and the Light Sage calls upon the gods to open the sealed door and send Ganondorf into the void of Evil Realm. Ganondorf is sent to Yomi.
Man just sent him in an alternate dimension. He just got isekai, bro. I'm just saying.
And so Miyamoto and Osawa's first sorrow thread is, in essence, a message about nature and the importance of striking a harmony with it.
I can almost predict what's going to be the next line, which is basically the fact that Link is getting older as the game progresses. So I imagine it has something to do with the fact that either he dies at some point and not in a good way, or I'm saying maybe it's because I'm just speaking my mind here. It's either that or it's because he's forever cursed to bear the burden of the world, right? So in any story where the hero has a good ending is, I won't say it's fantasy or fictional, but most heroes never get good endings. It's just life, man. It's just life. Hey, I think that's probably
greed
a point
and
he's going to
hatred are pollution
That's
to
my
this
take, at
natural
least.
balance, and if we don't respect it, nature will surely retaliate.
Yeah, well,
Who knows what might happen to those who are consumed by greed?
who knows? Damn. This is the Shindo line, right? Okay.
Osawa's third and final thread might be the most important and requires attention paid to these last pieces of poetic
Because
dialogue.
reading it, memory of younger days, flow of time is always cruel, childish mind will turn to noble ambition. All of them speak about getting older. So it's my guess. That's it.
Growth, childish minds, and memories of younger days, etc. These kinds of references to age and growth are nowhere to be found in other Zelda stories, but Link's age is the focus of about 90% of all the characters in Ocarina of Time. Before Link enters the sacred realm to sleep for that 7 years, the supporting characters make sure Link knows exactly how little the world expects of him, with just a little kid, fairy boy, forest boy, kid, sunny, kid, fairy boy, boy, lad, son, kid,
That's
boy,
probably just gonna smack the shit out of him. It's like, boy, I got this.
kid,
Goddamn.
boy, forest boy, fairy boy, son, little kid.
Yeah, we get it. We get your
Kid.
point.
Seeing Link for the child that he is a relatively fair assessment, and these references to his disposition would render unimportant if it weren't for the equally ferocious obsession the characters have with the idea of manhood. Becoming a man is an ideology the characters, including Link's childhood friends, seem to consider as the highest level of honor. There's talk of being a real man, not being a real man without a fairy, Darunia wanting Link to prove he is a real man, Princess Ruto telling Link he has been a terrible man to keep her waiting, and Naburu wishing she had kept a promise all those years ago after seeing how handsome Link had become as a man.
I'm just saying, bro, Naburu can get it. I ain't taking that back. I mean what I said.
The third thread for Link is an inward journey.
Yeah.
It is Osawa's exploration of the
it is the progression of age and the older you get. And I think that's the hidden meaning behind the game is there's going to be a significant difference of playing the game when you're younger, when you're playing it older. I think that's my idea of how I would think they would try planning this out.
transition from childhood to adulthood. And just like the real world, it is both awkward and tragic. It's the growing up line.
Yes, I was right. So it is. If you see him progress through the game, I would imagine that would be. I think when you see him progress through the game, you see him get older. But I think that inside every adult is the heart of a child. I think this is such a tough statement because I think for me personally, I think every reaction video, I think I want to put a little piece of myself, like my backstory, my experiences. When you say would you ever want to say you want to go back to when you were a kid or, enjoy your time as a child? Because I remember when I was younger, my parents would always tell me, enjoy the time you were as a kid, man. Because when you get older, things get harder. For sure. So, I think that ideas and dreams as a kid should be nurtured. You have to nurture a kid in a way that you'd want what's best for them, but also telling them how they can try and make their dreams a reality, how they can, achieve what they want in the world, right? I think I understand you don't have to go too deep. It's a reaction video about a video game, but honestly, looking at how, the burden Link has, and just going through life. It's interesting because I have to remind myself, Link doesn't have a dad or a mom. Like, Link is just, he's burdened by change, knows that the Deku Tree is dead, and he has to go out into the world and solve everyone's problems. Has a time skip for 7 years, comes back as a man, saves the world. I am curious what that would do to a person, because for me, my childhood, I have amazing memories. Of course, it's not all like daisies and roses, but what's interesting to me is that kind of person, once you're done saving the world, doesn't like how does it happen? Like, when you have a hero that survives saving the world, what happens to him? The world doesn't need him anymore. Like, I think that's going to be the tragedy at the end, which is basically, well, once you're done saving the world, why does the world need you anymore? You're on your own. You're just there. Now you're just part of the pace, right? So it's always interesting for me to see that, because once he's done saving the world, what do you do then after that? Go back to where you came from? I don't know. I think that is 100% what I think is going to happen. We just gradually convince ourselves that we have to act more like adults. That is true. That is true. Yes.
If threads 1 and 2 are about why and how the Deku Tree died, then finding a foothold in the growing up line requires an examination into who the Deku Tree is. The children of Kokiri Forest describe the Deku Tree as not only the guardian of the entire forest, but also their father.
I think that answers my question. Okay, so it's symbolic, because he would be the
claiming
father.
that he was the one to give life to the Kokiri race, as well as everything in the forest. The name Kokiri, when translated from Japanese kanji to English, echoes this sentiment, with ko meaning kid or child and ki meaning tree. So here we have children of the tree, which not only aligns with themes explored on the Shinto line, but gives the entire forest a childlike attitude. The layout of the forest is a playground with ladders, ramps, tree houses, secret crawling holes, and mazes. Similar to Neverland from the Peter Pan stories, Kokiri Forest exists as this insular, magical realm separate from the real world. Children never grow up here, and each child is allied with a fairy companion, the mark of a true Kokiri. And the story begins with the Deku Tree sending Link his very first fairy companion, Navi.
My God, I just got chills. I'm not gonna lie. I just got chills. Wait, I didn't realize that. So that means you would forever remain a kid there. That makes more sense now, I think. Even without playing the game, knowing the general theme and this general story, I would imagine this plays a huge difference, because once he goes outside, he does grow up.
And so Kokiri Forest is the physical representation
of his childhood.
Of Link's childhood.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. That makes sense.
This is the foothold for the growing up line. Though as carefree as it appears, Kokiri Forest isn't without sadness.
The Deku Tree dies.
Humans name Kokiri Forest the Forbidden Forest, and some children explain that those who enter from the outside without a fairy transform into Stalfos, those skeleton monsters Link faces in future temples.
Those who enter the forest without a fairy turn into Stalfos, okay.
We see this happen later when a man enters the forest and falls asleep against this stump, only to vanish later, leaving a Kokiri girl to explain that he's now lost to the woods. Everybody, Stalfos. But children cannot leave either. The great Deku Tree said that if a Kokiri leaves the woods, he or she will die. And so...
I know how it ends now. If from what I understand and what he's told me, the only way this ends is Link has to leave and he can't come back. It's the only way.
So with no one...
Holy shit, that would be heartbreaking. Imagine doing everything you can to save the world and not being able to return. That is...
Entering as an outsider and no one...
It would be poetic because it's appropriate, because that's what would really happen to a hero. But what if Link did try to return? Would he become a Stalfos?
Leaving as a child of the tree, we have this protective bubble around what stands to be childhood, and some of the Deku Tree's dialogue aligns with this idea, stating that as the source of life, Kokiri Forest stands as a barrier, deterring outsiders and maintaining order of the world. there is a purity and innocence being protected here.
It's beautiful in a way because you know what happens.
But this protective bubble begins to collapse when the father is killed.
Yes.
In the wake of the Deku Tree's death, Link is forced to exit Kokiri Forest. The Deku Sprout reveals later that Link is axed by his mother to the Deku Tree years ago, seeking protection during the Great War.
So Link is an outsider.
So Link is an outsider with...
It's like, there's just the sentences basically just immediately after this, but yes, he's got dual citizenship. Yeah, he's right.
With this dual citizenship, can travel to and fro between childhood and the adult world, yet not belonging to either one.
Oh my god, it does go back to line, because not only can he return, he can't return, and he doesn't belong to the world once he's done saving it. So what is he going to do?
Even on the outside, Link still sees the world through the eyes of a child, and Miyamoto and Osawa keep the design playful during this entire childhood phase.
Oh.
The castle market is full of life with dancing couples, dogs, and playing children. The dungeons are full of magic and mystery. Link is peeking through windows, climbing vines, and playing hide and seek with castle guards. But things turn grim after Link passes through the appropriately named Door of Time and plucks the Master Sword from the pedestal.
Older and he's able to...
Link undergoes a physical transformation and wakes as an adult, with the Master Sword now containing the essence of his childhood, aka memories of younger days. Now in an adult body, in an adult world, the bleakness of adulthood and responsibility comes at Link with everything it has. The first reveal, the old marketplace, once bustling with color, now cold and desolate, and it's in this moment that Osawa establishes Link and Ganondorf, who on the adventure line represent the opposing forces of good and evil, and nature versus man on the Shinto line, into their designed role of childhood versus adulthood.
Moving past and growing up.
Ganondorf represents everything Link isn't, and Osawa uses this storytelling device to attack the only thing Link is holding onto: his relationships. As Link gains back ground from Ganondorf in his purification quest on the Shinto line,
he loses his childhood.
On the growing up line, a slow subtraction begins to take place.
Yes, it's a trait.
The more Hyrule gains,
the more Link loses.
A clip
It is so poetic. God damn, man.
Miyamoto and Zelda.
I love the background, I love the lore of video games, but this is just hitting it right for me. This is...
Producer Eiji Onuma mentioned in an interview the importance of Link leaving the 4 girls from his childhood behind. Link must lose everything to save the world.
Because it is destiny that you and I can't live in the same world.
This plays heavily on the everything has to come from somewhere natural balance of Shintoism. You don't just get wood. You have to chop down a tree.
Oh, okay.
You can wash away corruption, but it has to go somewhere. In this case, the corruption is lifted off the nature of Hyrule and onto Link himself. This is his designed role in nature. But we're not done yet. While each sage's relevance stems from their race and elemental essence on the Shinto line, on the growing up line, Osawa has infused these characters with characteristics and dialogue symbolic of milestones one must navigate during adolescence: friendship, family, romance, loyalty, and sex.
Wow.
Saria's dialogue dedicated predominantly to friendship, Darunia to sworn brotherhood and family after Link saves the starving Goron race. Ruto's character, obsessed with love and marriage. Princess Zelda's loyal bodyguard, Impa, solely focused on Zelda's safety, asks Link to protect Zelda in her stead. And Nabooru, whose dialogue suggests sexual activity and comments on how handsome Link has become as a man. And so those medallions Link collects from each sage...
That is so fascinating, because it talks about the facets. It's not just about the more you gain in the game, it talks about the facet of handling all of these items as you progress through adulthood. That's
also
tough.
Emblems of Link's adult achievements, and Link's childhood guide, the Owl, closes this chapter off, congratulating Link on fully maturing as an adult. Childish minds turn to noble ambition.
I'm almost scared for what he's going to decipher with the flow of time as always scroll. I'm almost scared.
But at this point, Link has lost everything and everyone, except now as officially a man, and with his childhood essence still attached to his back, can now enter Ganondorf's castle to kick off the final chapter and the final fight, childhood versus adulthood.
Oh, okay. Because I was wondering the entire time, why was he still saying, yeah, but Link is becoming an adult, but he's kept his childhood on his blade. Okay, he's going to use that to fight Ganon. So it is childhood versus adulthood. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. I get it that, the backgrounds, the effects, and everything is great, but this music is killing me. This BGM is insane. Pitiful, man.
Ocarina of Time's code disables the ability to defeat Ganondorf with any weapon other than the Master Sword. The growing up line requires a poetic close to this final chapter,
so it must be
the Master Sword, aka the essence of childhood, which delivers the final blow to adulthood. After defeating Ganondorf and ultimately avenging the Deku Tree and the forest, Zelda sends Link back in time to his childhood version.
Regain your lost time, but I don't know if the game has a good ending, but I don't like where this is going.
But the greatest tragedy is yet to come. With the Master Sword back in the pedestal, the essence of childhood now falls to Link's fairy companion, Navi, who remains Link's key back into Kokiri Forest, where he can live out the rest of his childhood. But with no explanation, Osawa writes Navi out of the story, and the very last shot is Navi leaving Link behind. Link's last connection to his childhood is severed, and if he was to return, would become a Stelphos like the man against the stump.
That is, I would say it is an appropriate, the story writing tool, but that is really tough to listen to and really tough to understand, but I get it. It's because I think regardless of even if he went back to a child's body, he's matured and had the experiences that anyone would treat him as a mature adult. So I think it doesn't make sense, because once you've already passed on to being an adult, you can't go back and be a child again. It's done. The flow of time is always cruel because there's no going back. And time that's lost is time that's gone. So I can understand that. It's hard, man, because it hits you.
Vanished from his
He's
childhood.
vanished from child because it makes sense.
This Stelphos character from Twilight Princess, aka the hero's shade who speaks of easing his regrets, is confirmed by the creators to be this Link from Ocarina of Time. And so...
Oh my god, I called it! Wait! So did he go back and try... Is this Link from Ocarina of Time? But he got sent back. How would he be able to go back into the forest again? I don't know the full background, but maybe it's possible that he still would have gone and tried to go back to forest, because there's no other place in the world he can go. He has no one else. Even Zelda sent him back. Fucking hell. And that's what's crazy, because once he goes back in time, he severs the bonds of the future. So he has to go and meet all of them again, and but he might not even be able to set up, build bonds with them, because there's no reason to, because the world's saved.
So, Miyamoto and Osawa's third thread of sorrow is one that comes full circle.
This is hard.
The growing up line is a losing story, and though the purified world of Hyrule...
And this hit, and I feel this in my soul, brother, because it's difficult, trying to explain to people who've had the luxury and the privilege of studying, working where they were born, from in their childhood, place of stay. For me personally, I had to leave my country behind and situate in a different country and work here. So for me, this hits a little harder, because when you're staying somewhere else away from home, it feels as though you've lost connection to everything that made you you. Your friends, your relatives, they're all somewhere else, mate. So now that you're here, you do feel that lonely fight that you have to fight. And if you're done fighting, you feel like you don't belong. It's even more hard work because you need to be in touch with the community you have here. So it's weird for me to say it, but I would relate to this Link. I can feel the pain that he has to go through. I understand this is beautiful storytelling because I'm feeling this way and this kind of certain kind of way about a fictional character. And that speaks volumes to the writing and the crafting of the story more than anything else. Because I can relate to this Link. I can see myself in this Link.
Is the ultimate price and falls victim to what he's really been fighting against from the beginning.
The cruel flow of time. Yes.
Time.
Because it's always, that question with regrets. Because, it's... And look, I suppose I say regrets because I feel like such an old person or something else like that. I'm in my 20s, but I could imagine, even now I feel like I've made certain regrets on time that I've lost. But I'd imagine that it would be even worse if you make a mistake and you spend maybe 4, 5, 10 years drifting, not knowing what you're doing with your life. And then you try getting it back in order and then you not knowing how to, put the pieces back into place. So yeah, I can imagine because time doesn't stop. Time doesn't care if you make a mistake. It's just going to keep flowing. That's hard.
Is the true villain of the story. And this kind of
Isn't
message
it for everyone,
about
right?
losing
Isn't it in life?
childhood mirrors Miyamoto's personal ethos when it comes to designing his games. I think that inside every adult is the heart of a child. We just gradually convince ourselves that we have to act more like adults.
It's beautiful.
Ultimately, Ocarina of Time is a story about transformation and the inevitable sorrow that comes attached to it. While other Zelda stories allow the audience to consider sorrow and despair through more direct means, Ocarina creates an indirect, sorrowful atmosphere by establishing, then removing, a world of happiness. On each line, Link loses something in the death of the Great Deku Tree: a mentor, a protector, and a father. And this gives way to 3 types of transformation. Transformation of Link as a person, transformation of the people around him, and a transformation of the world he inhabits. But it's actually in Ganondorf that we find Miyamoto and Osawa's greatest storytelling weapon.
He took his time. He took his life.
Appropriately named King of Thieves, each line explores the 3 things Ganondorf has stolen: the Triforce, the health of Hyrule's nature, and what might be his greatest crime of all time, Link's childhood.
I don't know if it's a metaphor, maybe a personification of things that happen to kids which are beyond their control, like losing their parents or having other factors that make them grow up far faster than they should, and people have regrets of not having a good childhood. So I'm not sure if Miyamoto had some other kind of ideas or thoughts on that maybe, but I can see that it's appropriate. King of Thieves, right?
While that Zelda sorrow language may not appear in Ocarina of Time's script, Link is still healing sorrows and easing regrets on scales far larger than its successors. In the end, Link is changed forever.
Powerful.
A savior, banished from his childhood, destined to roam alone in a world that doesn't remember him.
I called it. I'm happy I called it, but fucking hell, because it just also steps on another pain that's there, which is, could you imagine what happens if you die and the world forgets about you? You're only succeeded by the people that you love and care about. You're succeeded by your kids. But once they go on, once they die, that's it. True, I think it's one of the ways I think even the Egyptians or like even the ancient Egyptians and even other cultures looked at it, which is basically you would generally face 2 deaths, 2 types of deaths. One is the physical death that you die, and the second death where you're forgotten. So I can see this represented here. It's in a weird way of saying that Link won but died in a different way. Where the world forgot about you and you're still alive physically. But what's the point?
And all of this buried down in the subtext beneath the heroic adventures of the main story. Ocarina of Time is the saddest Zelda story no one noticed.
Yeah, I'm gonna let it play out, but whoever wrote this video essay needs a raise. This is arguably. I'm glad. I'm gonna talk on the background theme. I am super glad I did a reaction to this. Super glad. This is it's a game that I've never played. I might actually think of picking up an emulator and actually playing the game anyway. Screw you, Nintendo. I'm still gonna do that. But you know, bro, I don't know who made this video. I need to know the guy who made this kind of video essay, because I want to see if he's done anything else, because this is insane. I feel like there's more videos here as well, but you know, I'll say it, bro. Good stuff, because this is such a powerful piece on the story, and it's, I guess he's not wrong. It's a story of a video game, but it's so captivating, because when you play it as a kid, you might not even understand the entire subtext in it. But when you play it as an adult, it would feel a certain kind of way, you know? But yeah, why am I going to take more time? Hope you guys enjoyed the video, because I think we're already like, 46 minutes in. So it's going to be a long reaction video. It's going to be a long edit, but I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to enjoy, putting this on YouTube, because I think this is a video that I think a lot of people need to see. I know it's something that I remember just seeing a snippet of it, months ago, and I knew I had to do a reaction to the full thing, because I saw like the first minute, and I was like, this might be something, because I love the lore in video games, and I love the background and the interrelationships that the story builds. So this was something that was up my alley, 100%. This was something I wanted to do. So, you know what? I think I'm done rambling. I think you guys have heard me rambling enough. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, comment, and subscribe. And, give your recommendations. If it's a video essay, if it's something that's, something that talks about video games or movies or TV shows, let me know, because I do everything. I feel like at this point I'm just going to try being a variety, content creator, if that's the thing. But this is, I think, one of my longest videos I've done since I've returned, quote unquote. But yeah. I guess I'll say it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you guys want me to watch next time, and I'll catch you beautiful bastards in the next one. It's gonna be a long video. I don't think I'm gonna get any video retention, but you know what? It's worth watching. Peace. Catch you later. Hey, nice.